Welcome back to the Qt Creator. Today we're going to create the settings manager, and we're going to go ahead and load up a settings file. And this will be the settings file. I'll have a root category. It'll give a version, application name, and the Qt developer, the author. And then I'll have a candle chart settings. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and store all of these items into a hash. Then I'll load them up and I'll apply them to the chart. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and make a Q string of where I'm actually going to store the settings. So I'll keep those inside the Q string and the str settings file. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I need to create a map. Now the map is going to be a Q string followed by a Q hash. Now the Q hash will have two strings in it. And I'll call it the settings category. Now the next thing is I need to be able to define what that root category is and return a Boolean if the category is actually found. Now prior to this, I went ahead and set this up as a singleton, so I can always access the settings manager from anywhere in the code. So now I go ahead and begin to add my routines. So here's my root category. I'll go ahead and define that in the CPP. The next thing I'm going to need to do is I would like to be able to find a category. So I want to find the root category. So I can add it and I can find it. Then I want to be able to get the root category. I want to be able to add root category data. So this will be what I'm going to add to that root category. Then I'll create a way to retrieve the root categories. And I'll go ahead and store those in a map. And that map will resemble this, settings category. Now, I want it to be a constant so that it can't be changed. Next, I'll look to find the setting. First, I need to put this in my CPP. So now I want to say, okay, I want to find a setting. I'm going to pass it the category name and the key. And of course, both of these are const. And finally, I want to be able to change the setting. So I'll pass it a category, the str key, and the data. Now next, I need to be able to retrieve the settings file. So I want that to be a Q string. So that'll get the settings file. I also want to be able to set the settings file. And I'll pass it a settings file name. Then I'll be able to read from the settings file. And what do you think is going to come next? If you guessed write the settings file, then you are correct. Here is write settings file. And now I want to be able to have a default both for reading and for writing. So let's go ahead and add my base for reading and for writing. So now I need to make a couple of signals. Because how do I know when it's finished? So let's make a couple of signals. And I'll say void update settings and void update chart colors. So when this is all finished, when the settings are red, I'll be able to emit a signal. So now it's about the meat and potatoes. So now I need to go ahead and say, all right, well, let's go to the top here. And I want to go ahead and, let's say, I want to read the settings file. So inside of read settings. So I think the first thing I want to do, and I want to say mSettings category dot clear. This way we starts fresh. Then I need to take the Q file. So Q settings file, I need to pass it the file name the two Latins. So if the settings file does not exist, whoops, then I'm going to return. Because you can't find it, and it's probably going to crash. However, if the settings file is there, well then, let's try to open it up. So in this instance, I want to create a text stream. So here's my text stream. It needs to be a Qt text stream. So my Qt text string, I'm going to use to open up that file. Oh, store the data. I then want to create a Qt pair. And the Qt pair will be two strings. I'll call it a temporary pair. I then am going to create an str category string in which I'm going to store the category. Then it's a matter of saying, all right, well, I want an input. So I'll go ahead and create an str input, followed by a bracket. So here's my bracket. Now I need to create a while loop. It's going to basically go through the whole file. And it's going to continue until the end of the file. So here's my while loop. And while it's not at the end, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. And so the stuff I'm going to do is I want to read the data from the file, category 1, and I need to begin to do a comparison. So the comparison that I want to make is to check for those brackets. So I want to do a string compare, look for this. Then I'm going to take that bracket and I'll store it in the first category. Now remember, this is the first part of the pair, so this will be stored in the first part of the pair. Then I want to have an else if. And in this one, I want to check to see if this one and this one is not equal to 0. So this has to be equal to 0, and this would not be equal to 0. And so I'm just traversing through this. If it is, I'm then going to take the input, and I'm going to add it to my str input. I then go ahead and continue, and make another check. So now I'm checking to see if this one and this one are basically closed. And if they are, then we're going to do a bunch of things. Well, the first thing is I'll set the first to an empty string in the bracket. Then I set the second part of the pair to the bracket, followed by adding to the root category. I then take the str category and add the str input. I want to go ahead and clear it. Then I'll do a little cleanup and begin the next round. So now I need to do a string compare for equal. So here's my equal. So if the equal sign's encountered, I think I'll have to do another check. I need to check and make sure it's empty. If it is, I'll continue. Then I'm going to take the temp pair and I'll set the first element, or in the pair, I'll set it to the str input. I'm then going to want to clear it. And then I'll go ahead and continue. Okay, continuing on. Now, well, I need to compare for a new line. So I'll do my comparison for a new line. And of course, I want to check to make sure, whoops, it's empty. If it is, I'll continue. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to take care of the second part of the pair. And I'll set that to the string output or input. Now I've been able to move on to add a category. So I can add the root category data. It'll be the name of the category and the temp pair. Next, I'm going to clear it, and I want to set the first part of the pair to an empty string. Do a little cleanup. I'll then set the second part to an empty string, and I'll continue. And then once this is sort of finished, I'm then going to set the string input plus an equal to, so I'll continue to add to it, to that str0. And that'll take care of reading the file. Now the next important thing is, once it goes through all of this, well, I need to go ahead and redraw. So this is where I'm going to admit my chart color update and my update settings. Now let's take a look at the read default. Now the read default, well, I'm just going to get the application path. And I do that by getting the core application, the application dir path, and I'll put a slash at the end of it. I'll call that the app path. And then just going to create a default name. I'll call it default ini. So I'll go ahead and append default ini to the app path. Now remember, I added this at the end, so it's my directory path slash default.ini. Then I need to double check. So if that file exists, then I want to read the file, which means I will read settings, call it here, and pass that str file name, which is essentially what I'm doing with the str default. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a root category. So in the root category, I want to check the settings category to see if it contains the root category. So I'll go ahead and check. So if it doesn't contain it, then I'll probably go ahead and do something. So then I want to say, okay, insert the category with the Q hash and the string. And at this point, I want to return true. Otherwise, I'll return false. Now the next thing, well, I want to find the root category. So it'll be something similar. I'll go ahead and check that root category. If it does, if it finds it, I'll return true. Otherwise, I'll return false. Then I'll go ahead and say, all right, well, let's get the root category hash. And a similar pattern. I'm then going to set that hash equal to the value of the category in which it found, and I'll return true. Otherwise, I'll return false. Now it's time to go ahead and add the root category data. Now again, I'm checking, and I'm going to go ahead and check that first pair. So here's the data that I'm passing from the first part of the pair, which is the category name. And if it contains it, well then, I'm going to find it, insert the first and second pair, and I'll go ahead and return true. Now for this, for the get root categories, I just want to return the actual settings. So I can say return settings category. Now when I go ahead and want to find a setting, well, I'm going to do a similar pattern. So when I try to find it, I'm going to check to see if it contains the category. I'll then go ahead and check again to see if it contains the key that I'm passing in. And if it does, well, then I'm going to return the data that it found from that category. Otherwise, if it doesn't find it, I'll return an empty string. Now in the change settings group, or method I should say, I need to do the same thing. I'm going to check the category. I'm then going to check to see if the key is found within that category. And if it is, then I'll go ahead and try to find the actual category. If it is found, I'll return true. Otherwise, I'm going to return false. Now, if I want to get the actual settings file, well, I'm going to return the str settings file, which I set. And here's where we set it. So this is where I set the settings file. And that's pretty much it for my settings manager. Now this is our chart. We have the analytical time frame on the left, the trading time frame on the right. We have our orders and execution window, the bid, the ask, and the spread, our timer. And now let's go ahead and connect and see what happens. It is connected, and look at that. All of our bars are showing up. We can scroll left and right, zoom in, zoom out. Zoom in, zoom out on each one. Scroll left and right. That's terrific. So thank you for watching this series. If you have any comments, questions, please leave them in the boxes below. Thank you for watching the Qt Developer and the Stock Chart series with Qt and C++. Remember, happy coding!